Babes, welcome back. We love you, we see you, and honestly, every time we watch 90 Day Fiancé, our own dating lives start looking surprisingly healthy.
It is like the absolute ultimate reality check. I mean, you think you're having a bad week because, the guy you matched with left you on read.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. But then you just turn on TLC and suddenly your romantic problems seem so incredibly manageable compared to navigating K-1 visa fraud or international family feud.
Or apartments covered in literal trash bags, which we will absolutely get to.
Oh, we are getting to the trash bags.
Yes. So Snark Squad, we have the passion fruit margaritas on deck tonight. We were fully poured, fully ready, because this specific breakdown requires tropical optimism and a whole lot of emotional resilience.
And honestly, maybe a little bit of tequila to numb the secondhand embarrassment.
Exactly. Cheers to surviving another week. Cheers to you, babe.
Cheers. And frankly, we need the tequila because analyzing this show, it always sends me into a complete psychological spiral about our own passport delusions.
Oh my gosh, yes. The passport delusion is so deeply real.
We see this play out season after season, and yet the fantasy persists.
It totally does. Every single time I watch a season premiere, I sit on my couch, I look at my completely predictable life, and I think, I should book an international trip immediately.
Right. You're ready to pack your bags.
Totally. I should go to a cobblestone street in Italy or a beautiful sun-drenched beach in the Dominican Republic, and I will just miraculously bump into some charming, gorgeous local who will sweep me off my feet and will fall madly in love.
Sure. You'll drop your books, our hands will touch.
Yes. I fully buy into the fantasy. I start looking at flights on my phone while the show is on. I start imagining my new wardrobe.
Which is adorable, but it is deeply clinically delusional.
Wait, why? The dream.
Because the fantasy is meeting someone charming while you're wearing a flowing sundress at sunset, looking like a movie poster.
Right.
The reality of international travel, the actual lived experience, is sitting on the floor at gate B42 because of a 6-hour airport delay. Ugh, the floor is always so sticky, too.
Always. It is experiencing severe currency confusion where you, accidentally spend the equivalent of $80 on a mediocre ham and cheese sandwich at the terminal.
Oh, no, I've done that. The conversion rate gets me every time.
Exactly. It's trying to find your connecting flight in Frankfurt while carrying massive emotional baggage, 3 different types of airport snacks, and just sweating through your travel clothes.
Frankfurt is the worst airport to run through.
Right. There's no sundress. There's only survival.
Okay, I know the logistics are messy, but, isn't it romantic at its core? I'm just wondering aloud if you would be romantic enough or, brave enough to literally move countries for love, to cross oceans, leave absolutely everything behind, your friends, your career, your favorite grocery store, and just dive headfirst into the unknown for your absolute soulmate.
I can answer that for myself right now with zero hesitation. Absolutely not.
Really? Not even for the perfect guy? I am not crossing an ocean for love. I would miss my favorite local coffee shop way too much, and I refuse to pretend otherwise.
You do love that barista.
I do. But more importantly, let's examine the mechanics of what moving for love actually entails. I am not dealing with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. Have you looked at the K-1 visa paperwork?
It looks thick on the show.
It is a terrifying amount of documentation. You have to prove your relationship is real to a hardened government agent who is literally trained to spot liars.
It sounds so stressful.
It's awful. You have to undergo medical exams, background checks, and explain why you don't speak the language of the country you're moving to.
Okay, true.
The sheer logistical nightmare of moving my skincare routine across the Atlantic is a deal breaker, let alone signing an affidavit of support that makes me financially responsible for another human being for a decade.
So I feel like if it's true love, you figure those logistics out. Love can overcome a different lifestyle. If you find your person, you fill out the paperwork.
If you say so.
But it does bring up this huge debate we are always having while watching this show. What actually counts as a genuine cultural misunderstanding? A real difference in how two societies operate, and what is simply a terrible universal relationship decision that we try to excuse by saying, oh, it's just their culture.
Right, and this is the crux of the entire franchise.
Exactly.
For example, is wanting a massive enmeshed family a cultural difference? Or is demanding your partner act as an incubator a fundamental incompatibility that spans all cultures?
Oh, Yes.
Because a lot of people we watch love to hide behind the word culture when they are actually just making horrific, selfish choices. It becomes a shield for bad behavior.
I always argue that love can overcome different lifestyles, different family dynamics, and totally different cultural expectations, but only if both people actually try.
Right. The trying part is key.
If there's mutual respect, active listening, and a genuine desire to compromise, you can bridge that gap.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to meet in the middle.
Sure, compromise is great in theory. It sounds lovely. But let's look at the reality. There is an exact moment when compromise turns into, babes, absolutely not.
And we saw a lot of those moments this week.
We saw about 5 of those distinct moments in this week's footage. It's the moment you're asked to live with 10 people in an 800-square-foot apartment.
Oh my gosh, I would die.
It's the moment your fiancé demands an open marriage weeks before the wedding. That's not a cultural misunderstanding. That is a red flag visible from low Earth orbit. You cannot compromise on your fundamental reality.
Which brings us to the relationship red flags that we would totally ignore for 5 minutes.
Oh, confessing our sins now.
Because let's be honest, we all have them. We all have that one superficial thing that completely blinds us to reality. I will confess right now the ridiculous things that would temporarily distract me from an obvious warning sign.
Let's hear the list.
Number 1, a great accent.
Oh, classic.
If you sound like you belong on a British period drama, if you are giving me full Mr. Darcy energy, I will ignore your completely terrible personality for at least 5 solid minutes. I will just let you talk.
Honestly, valid. Number 2 for me. Amazing cooking.
Oh, food is the way to the heart.
If a guy is standing in my kitchen whipping up homemade pasta from scratch, carefully tending to a slow-simmered bolognese, I will temporarily overlook the fact that he doesn't have a job and has no immediate plans to get one.
The carbs will blind you.
Culinary distraction is potent.
Number 3, thoughtful travel planning.
Rare, but incredible.
Right. If you book the Airbnb, if you figure out the train schedule, and you successfully navigate us from the airport to the hotel without getting into a fight, I will entirely ignore the fact that you might be secretly texting your ex in the bathroom.
Administrative relief is just too intoxicating.
It really is. Also, number 4, owning a cute dog. A cute dog covers a multitude of sins.
So true.
If you have a golden retriever that loves me, you can have a highly questionable credit score. I'll allow it.
And number 5, sending memes consistently.
Yes, the love language of our generation.
If your meme game is elite, if you are sending me hyper-specific, perfectly curated content that aligns with my exact sense of humor, I will excuse your crippling emotional unavailability for a very brief window.
Just a window.
I will mistake your digital curation for actual intimacy. But I have to admit, after approximately 5 minutes of a guy complaining about my deodorant or trying to control my finances or suggesting we live in absolute squalor, those red flags would start flashing violently again.
The spell breaks.
It does. The accent wears off, the homemade pasta gets cold, the dog has to go outside, and you are left with the reality of the person in front of you.
It's so painfully true. The fantasy fades fast when real life hits. But babes, enough about our own passport fantasies and questionable relationship standards. Let's get into 90 Day Fiancé, where people are crossing oceans for love while we're still debating whether to answer a dating app notification.
Let's get into the wreckage, because we have to talk about this episode. And let's dive straight in with the couple who took those red flags we were just talking about, stitched them together into a giant quilt, and just wrapped themselves in it. We have to start with Catie and Josh.
Oh my goodness, Catie and Josh. Let's start by looking at this bachelorette party.
Disaster.
First of all, the theme. She throws a funeral-themed bachelorette party to symbolize death to her single life.
Edgy.
Everyone is wearing black. There are morbid decorations. It's very macabre, very performative. But I was watching this unfold, and part of me really just felt this wave of hope for her.
Hope? Really?
I do. I feel like Catie is just figuring herself out. She's a young woman who clearly hasn't fully explored who she is or what she wants out of life. And we have to remember, she did make a promise to Josh before she walked out the door.
Oh, a promise she immediately broke.
But she explicitly sat him down and told him she was not going to get blackout drunk and she was not going to make out with random people. She attempted to set boundaries for herself.
I am going to completely shut down this delusional optimism right now.
Let me be optimistic.
Figuring herself out. Let's examine the environment she returned to. Have you seen the apartment she is currently living in?
Okay, the apartment is bad.
We need to talk about the horrifying, clinically alarming state of Catie's apartment. There are literal black trash bags everywhere.
Like everywhere.
It's not just messy, it's a biohazard. There are piles of laundry mixed with dirty dishes, random debris on every surface, absolute squalor. Her cats are sleeping inside the hamper of clean clothes that she refuses to fold or put away.
The cats in the laundry sent me.
It is a total disaster zone. And Josh is this very put-together English guy. He wears crisp pressed shirts, he has a structured aesthetic, and he's just completely ignoring the fact that his future wife lives like a raccoon in a dumpster.
That is so harsh, but accurate.
Why is he turning a blind eye to the physical manifestation of her internal chaos?
I think he genuinely loves her. He's looking past the superficial mess because he sees her heart. He knows she's overwhelmed, and he wants to be a supportive partner, not a drill sergeant.
He's ignoring it because he is trapped in an impossible enabler's dilemma. If he rolls up his sleeves and cleans that apartment, he immediately becomes her father figure, her maid, and her enabler.
That's a good point.
He sets the precedent that he will fix her messes forever. But if he doesn't clean it, he has to physically live in a landfill. It's a lose-lose situation.
Right.
But the apartment is just the physical manifestation of the mess.
Right.
Because the emotional mess at that funeral-themed bachelorette party was staggering. She walks into this bar, and within minutes, the tequila hits, and she's telling national television and all of her friends that sex with Josh is, quote, boring.
That was so tough to watch.
She complains that she cannot physically fathom the concept of sleeping with only him for the rest of her natural life. And then, as if that wasn't damaging enough, they start playing Never Have I Ever with random guys at the bar.
Okay, I have to defend Catie a little bit here because she actually did a podcast interview this week outside the show that changes how we view this scene.
Oh, the damage control interview.
It shed an incredible amount of light on her behavior. Catie has a real documented OCD diagnosis. It is a very real, very heavy clinical diagnosis.
Oh, right.
She talked openly about how she gets stuck in these intense, paralyzing mental loops. Like, she will spend hours obsessively trying to prove to herself that God is real, or she will be completely incapacitated by the fear that she accidentally harmed someone with her car and just didn't realize it.
Which sounds awful, truly.
And it's an exhausting way to live.
Yeah.
And she admitted that in high-stress social situations, like a bachelorette party with massive camera crews in her face, she uses alcohol to quiet her brain.
Self-medicating.
Exactly.
Oh.
Alcohol temporarily shuts down that hyperactive prefrontal cortex. She drinks to cope with the intrusive thoughts, but the side effect is that the drinking makes her act wildly flirty, impulsive, and totally disinhibited. Plus, she does have her life somewhat together in other areas. She runs a pet-sitting business in Portland. She handles clients. She feels responsible.
I hear you, and I want to be very clear. I appreciate that mental health struggles are incredibly real, deeply difficult, and deserve compassion. I am absolutely not invalidating her OCD diagnosis or the pain of living with intrusive thoughts.
Thank you.
But I am going to push back, and I am going to push back sarcastically, loudly, and with the full weight of logic.
Bring it.
OCD is an explanation for anxiety. It is not an excuse for suggesting an open marriage 3 weeks before you walk down the aisle.
Wow.
A neurological loop does not force you to look at a camera and tell your friends your fiancé is boring in bed. She admitted on that very same interview that she simply likes the thrill of chasing people.
She does like the chase.
She likes the dopamine hit of the flirtation and the excitement of the kiss. And let's not forget the massive internet backlash this caused. Actual OCD advocacy organizations had to put out statements basically clarifying to the public that making out with random men at a bar is not a standard symptom of obsessive-compulsive disorder.
I saw that. She was really upset about those statements.
What we are seeing is an impulse control issue, heavily fueled by alcohol, masking a deep terror of commitment.
It is an incredibly messy situation.
Yeah.
And the internet absolutely dragged her for it, pulling apart every frame of that bar scene.
Deservedly so.
But she also clarified that everyone online thinks she has this massive body count because of how she acted, and she claims she and Josh have actually slept with the exact same number of people, which she stated is under 50.
Oh, well, let's alert the media.
She was very adamant that she's not out here sleeping with everyone in Portland. She just likes the validation of the flirtation.
Great. Her body count is under 50. Let's hang a commemorative banner in the 800-square-foot trash apartment. But what I want to know is, what is the psychological profile of Josh? Is this man just the ultimate simp, Or is he genuinely the most terrifyingly patient human being on planet Earth?
He is a saint.
Because let's look at the sequence of events. She sits down with her friends, dripping alcohol down her chin, which, by the way, the viewers on Reddit were hyper-focused on.
The messy drinking, yes.
Dissecting the incredibly sloppy mechanics of her drinking. And she announces that she wants to ask Josh for an open relationship because she's not good at monogamy.
The timing is wild.
Do you understand the legal jeopardy here? You are applying for a K-1 fiancé visa. The entire premise of this document, legally speaking, is a bona fide marriage. Monogamy is basically page 1 of the paperwork.
That is actually a really good point about the visa.
If an immigration officer watches this footage and sees her openly stating she wants to sleep with other people, they could easily flag this as visa fraud.
I do feel terrible for Josh, especially knowing he is sitting in England or wherever he is right now, probably watching this footage back and hearing her say he's boring.
A brutal blow to the ego.
But I also feel like, in a weird, twisted way, Catie is being brutally honest about who she is. If she knows she struggles with monogamy, if she knows she craves external validation, isn't it better that she brings it up now, before they sign a marriage license, rather than secretly cheating on him 5 years down the line and destroying a family?
It would have been better to bring it up before he packed up his entire life in the UK, quit his job, left his family, and flew across an ocean to Portland.
Well, yes, ideally.
Bringing it up now is a hostage negotiation, not a confession. She is holding him emotionally captive right before the wedding. He is completely dependent on her. It's wild behavior.
Catie is actively trying to rewrite the rules of her relationship to avoid intimacy. But our next couple is utilizing an entirely different mechanism of avoidance.
Yeah.
Corporate distancing. From one partner desperate to keep the door open for random makeouts, we move to Marissa and Edward. Marissa clearly just wanted a vacation fling, and now she is trapped in a bureaucratic nightmare of her own making. Let's talk about the Boston CEO and the man she's completely torturing.
Oh, the corporate distancing is palpable. This one is physically painful to watch. We arrive at the crucial 45-day mark.
Halfway there?
They are literally halfway through the 90 days of the K-1 visa. The clock is ticking loudly, and Marissa just initiates this massive, seemingly out-of-nowhere blow-up. She is completely freezing Edward out.
So cold.
She is barely making eye contact, barely hugging him, standing 3 feet away at all times. And the reason she gives, she claims they lack intellectual compatibility.
What does that even mean?
She sits him down in their living room and acts like this incredible, benevolent martyr, saying, I don't want to subject you to someone who isn't 100% in. Like, she is doing him this massive favor by being incredibly cold and emotionally distant.
It's so frustrating because it's so transparent. I feel so deeply for Edward in this scene because he doesn't take the bait. He sits there, he maintains his composure, and he very calmly points out to her, Marissa, we have 2 years of history together.
He was remarkably calm.
This isn't just the last 40 days of them bickering in the suburbs of New York and Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They didn't just meet at a bus stop. They built a foundation. They communicated daily for 2 years. And she is acting like absolutely none of that matters because he suddenly doesn't fit seamlessly into her high society Boston CEO lifestyle.
Exactly. It is the most sterile corporate HR speak breakup tactic I have ever witnessed on reality television.
Yes.
It's like, I don't want to subject you to a suboptimal partnership moving forward, so let's circle back on our synergy, please. Let's break down the mechanics of this 45-day blow-up.
Let's do it.
Because it is entirely 100% manufactured by Marissa to create an exit strategy. Edward confronts her. He says, very reasonably, you are being cold. What is going on? And instead of being honest, she employs Darvu. Deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender.
Wow, yes.
She puts it all on him. She says she has doubts.
But the doubts aren't coming from him. They're coming from her own guilt. Because the messy truth of what actually happened after the cameras left for the night completely changes the context.
Let's air it out.
Edward caught her talking to her ex. And not just any ex. The ex who is also a boss/CEO type. The guy she openly admits was a fling with benefits.
Convenient.
Edward sees this notification, asks her about it calmly, and how does she react? Does she apologize for crossing a boundary? No. She violently gaslights him. She flips the entire narrative and calls him manipulative for even bringing it up.
Textbook.
She says, I can't believe you would be so sneaky as to look at my phone. He wasn't being sneaky. He asked a direct question about something happening right in front of him.
It is textbook deflection. And it gets worse. The next day, they try to have a reset conversation. They sit down to hash it out, and she comes out with this highly performative list of needs.
The list. Oh, my God.
She literally sits there with a piece of paper and says, I need you to be independent. I nearly threw my margarita at the television screen.
I was yelling at the TV.
Let's talk about the K-1 visa again. You brought a man from the Dominican Republic to the suburbs of New York. He doesn't know the geography. He doesn't have a local network. And legally, he cannot work.
He can't do anything.
He has to wait months for an employment authorization document. He cannot easily get a driver's license. He is entirely legally dependent on you for transportation, housing, food, and social integration because you signed an affidavit of support promising the U.S. government you would take care of him.
Yes.
And you have the audacity to demand that he be instantly independent. What exactly is he supposed to do, Marissa? Start a Fortune 500 company in your guest room by next Tuesday.
It is the sheer absurdity of it. Demanding a man you literally imported to have an instant, separate, thriving social and financial life is completely unhinged.
Unhinged is the word.
It just feels like she wanted a really fun, sexy guy to hang out with on the beach in the DR. She loved the fantasy. But the reality of a full-time fiancé cramping her style, living in her house, and holding her accountable to a monogamous relationship is just way too much for her.
She doesn't want a fiancé. She wants a souvenir.
Oh, that is so sad but true.
A handsome souvenir that she can put on the shelf when her CEO friends come over so they can talk about intellectual things. And then take him down when she wants some affection.
Wow.
It's insulting to his humanity. Edward is sleeping on the couch, trying desperately to fight for a relationship that she clearly checked out of weeks ago.
Marissa uses modern therapy speak and corporate jargon to build a wall against Edward, to distance herself without looking like the bad guy. But if we look at our next dynamic, the exact opposite tactic is being deployed.
We love a pivot.
Instead of modern corporate jargon, we are seeing deeply traditional cultural absolutes weaponized to build a wall. We have to pivot to Mallorie and Rasit and the ultimate bomb drop regarding children.
Oh, buckle up for this one. The clash between the ICE agent and the artisanal birdhouse builder. This is a masterclass in catastrophic timing.
I know the internet calls her the ICE agent because she has that very cold, strict, emotionally guarded demeanor. But I actually really sympathize with Mallorie in this episode.
Really?
Yes. She takes this beautiful horseback ride to clear her head, and she finally opens up to the cameras about the fact that she has severe childhood trauma. She had an incredibly difficult, painful upbringing, and that trauma has shaped her worldview.
Okay, I hear that.
That trauma is a completely valid, understandable reason for not wanting to bring biological children into the world. It is a deeply personal, agonizing choice, and she has every right to make it to protect her own peace.
I agree completely that her trauma is valid, and her choice to remain child-free is entirely her right. Nobody should be forced into parenthood, but I am going to call out the logistical and moral mess on both sides here. Let's talk about timing. Why on earth did Mallorie wait until Rasit uprooted his entire life, left his family in Turkey, navigated the U.S. immigration system, and moved to rural Alabama to tell him this?
That part was not great.
She looked directly at the cameras and said, I wanted to wait to tell him in person when it felt necessary. You flew to Turkey to get him. You were in person.
You're right. She had the chance.
You discuss fundamental deal breakers like children before you file the I-129F petition. It is incredibly selfish to wait until a person is completely isolated in a foreign country, dependent on you, to drop a bomb that changes the entire trajectory of their life.
That is the part that is impossible to defend. You have to have the do you want kids conversation on date 3. Or at least before the engagement ring, not on day 45 and 90-day visa countdown. But as much as Mallorie mishandled the timing, we have to pivot to Rasit's reaction.
Let's talk about Rasit, because the internet is tearing him apart, and frankly, I am grabbing a scalpel to join in.
He was being a
He is exhibiting absolute crybaby scammer behavior. The juxtaposition of his demands versus his reality is staggering. He's standing in her garage making wooden birdhouses on the expensive power equipment she paid for, complaining incessantly about the Alabama rain.
The rain comments were so funny to me.
He's literally looking at a puddle saying, under the sea rain, I don't know what we are doing, whining constantly about the climate.
And the financial demands. This is where the red flags turn into sirens. He is demanding that Mallorie send her hard-earned money to his family in Turkey, because apparently they live in a tent.
Which is wild.
Which, if true, is a heartbreaking reality of economic disparity. But he is demanding she fund his family while simultaneously absolutely refusing to sign a prenuptial agreement to protect the house, the cars, and the assets she built entirely on her own before he ever arrived in America.
It is highly, highly suspicious. Let's go back to the affidavit of support. Mallorie is already legally bound to financially support him. If she starts wiring money to a tent in Turkey, she is essentially bankrolling an entire extended family while he contributes zero capital.
Exactly.
He says he gave up everything for her, but he arrived with zero money, zero job prospects outside of avian real estate, and he expects full unrestricted access to her bank accounts. And then we get to the psychological warfare. The phone call with his brother, Mexcelina. Did you catch the twisted logic in that conversation?
Oh my gosh, yes. It was chilling.
Oh.
Rasit calls his brother in Turkey to complain that Mallorie doesn't want a baby. And the brother doesn't ask why. He doesn't ask about her health or her past.
Nope.
He immediately says, if she doesn't want kids, she doesn't love you. You need to leave her. It completely, universally equates her reproductive choices with her capacity to love him as a human being.
It completely invalidates her trauma. His brother is basically telling him her psychological pain does not matter. Our cultural expectation for you to reproduce and continue the patriarchal lineage is the only metric of a successful marriage.
Which is so toxic.
And Rashid completely absorbs this toxic advice, walks over to look at a beautiful wedding venue with Mallorie, and delivers a brutal transactional ultimatum. He stands in the middle of this romantic setting and says, cold as ice, if you don't want a baby, I will cut this relationship.
Which rightfully made Mallorie absolutely furious. She said in her interview, I'm not going to have a baby just to make you shut up.
Good for her.
And she questions out loud if he has any empathy for her past at all, or if he just views her as a vessel. It leaves you wondering, does Rasit actually love Mallorie, the complex, traumatized person, or does he just love the idea of an American wife who will check off his cultural boxes, giving him a child, a green card, a house, a car, and setting up wire transfers to his family's tent?
It feels incredibly transactional. If he truly deeply loved her, he would hold her hand, look her in the eye, and say, your trauma hurts my heart. I grieve the family I thought we would have, but let's figure this out together, maybe through counseling.
Exactly.
Instead, he essentially says, no baby, contract canceled. It's a business deal to him.
We're watching Mallorie and Rasit negotiate the purely hypothetical concept of a future child and failing miserably. But what happens when the child isn't hypothetical? What happens when the child is a fully grown, furious adult standing right in front of you, actively trying to destroy your peace?
Oh, an absolute nightmare.
That brings us to the very real nightmare that is Shay, Annabelle, and Shay's adult daughter, Allison.
First of all, before we even attempt to unpack the chaotic family dynamics of this trio, I need to issue a formal, aggressive demand for a trigger warning from the TLC production team. We need to talk about the gratuitous shower scene.
Oh, I literally had to cover my eyes with a throw pillow.
I am sitting on my couch watching the show while eating my dinner, and suddenly, without warning, there is a camera crew crammed into an American standard bathroom shooting B-roll through a steamy glass door while Shay and Annabelle are completely naked, vigorously kissing under the water.
It was so much.
Why are the producers keeping the cameras rolling for this? Why did the editor look at this footage and say, yes, the audience needs to see the soap suds?
They lingered on it.
It is giving me traumatic flashbacks to Luke in the spray tan booth from seasons past. It is entirely unnecessary reality TV voyeurism. We understand they are physically intimate. We get it. Please spare us the lather.
It was definitely TMI.
Huh.
But once they mercifully got out of the shower, put on some robes, and had their green smoothies in the kitchen, we pivoted to the real emotional core of their storyline, which is Annabelle's incredibly tragic backstory.
Her story is so intense.
My heart just broke for her during this segment. She sat down and opened up about working in Dubai in elder care for 7 years. 7 years of grueling, exhausting physical work, sending virtually all of her money back to the Philippines to her husband, trusting him to build their life, their house, their future together.
And what happens?
She comes home and finds out he was cheating on her the entire time, and he got another woman pregnant using the money she was wiring home.
It is a devastating, soul-crushing betrayal. It completely contextualizes why she is treading so carefully with Shay, but also why she is so deeply invested in making this current relationship work.
She just wants it to work.
She is dealing with massive sunk cost fallacy from her past, and she desperately wants a return on her emotional investment this time around. She deserves a win. She deserves real, loyal, uncomplicated love.
Exactly, which is precisely why it is so infuriating to watch what she is being forced to deal with regarding Shay's daughter, Allison. She finally finds a good guy, and she is rewarded with a step monster.
I am going to tear into Shay's parenting right now.
Do it.
Because Annabelle is trying her absolute best to be gracious, and Allison is acting like an absolute terror. Annabelle rightly called her a spoiled brat in her confessional, and frankly, I thought she was being incredibly generous with that description.
Very generous.
Allison is a grown adult woman, and she is acting like a vindictive, mean girl 13-year-old. She literally called Annabelle a bitch to her face. And during the wedding prep scene, when Annabelle is vulnerable, trying on beautiful veils and just looking for a tiny shred of support or validation, Allison is sitting in the corner with her arms aggressively crossed, giving her literal dagger eyes.
She looked like she wanted Annabelle to spontaneously combust right there in the bridal shop. It was so mean-spirited. And where is Shay in all of this?
Nowhere to be found.
This is the most frustrating part of the entire dynamic. Shay completely abandons the situation. He physically removes himself from the conflict. He sits them down in the living room and basically says, you two women need to fix this. Work it out amongst yourselves. He takes zero accountability as a father or as a partner.
It is the ultimate display of patriarchal cowardice. He is the parent. He created this monster by spoiling her after her mother died. Which is a profoundly sad backstory, yes, but it does not excuse raising an adult who terrorizes your guests.
Right.
It is his fundamental job as a father and a fiancé to step in and say, Allison, you will not speak to my future wife that way. You will apologize immediately, or you can leave my house. Instead, he just shrugs his shoulders and expects Annabelle, a woman who is already dealing with massive betrayal trauma, to somehow parent his adult daughter into being a decent human being. It's pathetic.
Shay's strategy is to physically remove himself from the emotional claustrophobia of his own living room. Unfortunately, physical escape isn't an option for everyone, especially when you are barricaded inside an 800-square-foot box.
Oh, boy.
Let's move to a situation of literal physical claustrophobia. We have to talk about Paula and Thomas and the impending doom of their tiny apartment.
From the emotional walls closing in to the physical drywall closing in, this is a logistical nightmare waiting to happen.
This segment started off so light and fun. We were at the bakery for the cake tasting, and Paula and Thomas are tasting this highly specific, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free wedding cake, which, let's be honest, sounds like they're tasting flavored cardboard with a side of air.
Basically packing peanuts.
I'm laughing just thinking about what the extended family guests are going to eat at this reception. But the lightheartedness completely evaporates the second they sit down to discuss the logistics of Paula's family arriving for the wedding. Paula announces that she wants to pack 10 of her family members into Thomas's one-bedroom, one-bathroom, 800-square-foot apartment.
It is mathematically impossible and psychologically dangerous.
It really is.
10 people, 2 rooms, 1 toilet. That is not a family reunion. That is a biological stress test in a terrarium.
I am so fundamentally confused by Paula's logic here. She argues that she hasn't seen her family in so long, she just wants to wake up with them, make breakfast together, and spend every waking moment soaking in their presence.
Insane.
But babes, look at the reality. Why not just pool your money and get an Airbnb? Rent a house with 3 bathrooms, a large living room, and a backyard. Why force this clown car situation onto your incredibly neurotic fiancé who likes his space?
Because the reality TV producers needed a high-stakes conflict, and putting 10 people in a shoebox guarantees footage. But let's break down Thomas's intense rules, because he is certainly contributing to the madness and making himself entirely unlikable in the process.
He is very particular.
It isn't just about the physical space for him, it's about the smells. Thomas apparently vehemently hates all of Paula's deodorant and her perfume. He sits her down and gives her a literal ultimatum about being stinky or single.
He actually said that.
He says she either has to stop wearing her scents entirely or he is done with the relationship. Now, we have to look at the external context here. The online discourse, like Reddit sleuths were all over this immediately, points out that Thomas supposedly suffers from MSACS, which is mast cell activation syndrome.
Which is a very real, very serious medical condition. If he truly gets sick from the chemical compounds in the perfume, she absolutely shouldn't wear it.
It is a real condition. For context, mast cells are part of your immune system, and in people with MCS, those cells mistakenly release massive histamine dumps in response to triggers like synthetic fragrances. It can cause hives, throat swelling, severe GI distress, and brain fog. It's awful.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
And if that is true, Paula should absolutely respect his medical needs and switch to unscented products. But even with that biological context, Thomas is being wildly dramatic and toxic in his delivery.
So toxic.
He doesn't sit her down and say, honey, my throat is closing, I'm having a medical reaction, please help me. He acts like a tight-ass grump who just hates joy and femininity. He complains about everything. He's incredibly neurotic. And it points out the absolute absurdity of this being the hill they both choose to die on.
It's crazy.
She wants to suffocate him with 10 loud relatives, and he wants to mandate her underarm hygiene with zero empathy. They're living on completely different planets.
Thomas is fighting off an invasion of his physical space. But sometimes the most damaging invasions aren't about square footage or deodorant at all. They are interrogations into your entire life's purpose and potential. And that brings us to our final couple in the recap, Agaya and Maxwell.
Right. We go from a family about to physically invade a tiny apartment to a family emotionally invading a peaceful beach trip.
Agaya plans this beautiful beach trip that is explicitly meant to be for family bonding. It's supposed to be a relaxed chance for everyone to get some sun, have some drinks, and get to know Maxwell in a low-stakes environment before the wedding.
That was the plan.
Asha is so deeply in love, and she genuinely believes that God chose Maxwell for her. She is leaning heavily on her faith, saying this union is divinely ordained. But her relative, Rod, absolutely does not care about God's will in this situation. Rod is looking at the earthly spreadsheet.
Rod is not operating on faith. Rod is operating on deep, cynical suspicion. Let's examine Rod's behavior because he pulls Maxwell aside at this beach trip and completely hijacks the vibe, turning it into a hostile interrogation.
He came in hot.
Rod acts like he is a lead detective uncovering a massive Nigerian romance con. He grills Maxwell relentlessly about his finances, his career trajectory, and his ability to provide.
He literally tells Maxwell to his face that Ashia shouldn't have to marry someone who only has potential. He demands to know what Maxwell has actually established in his life.
Which is so rude.
It's so incredibly harsh. Maxwell is sitting there calmly, trying to explain his long-term goals and his vision for their life, and Rod is just completely dismissive, waving his hand and calling it a sales pitch.
It's brutal to watch. And to top it all off, Rod gets deeply, visibly annoyed when he finds out that the wedding, which is going to be this incredibly beautiful, culturally rich hybrid of a traditional Igbo ceremony and a Western white wedding, is going to be a dry wedding.
He was so mad about the alcohol.
No alcohol. Rod acts like surviving a wedding reception without a cocktail is a Geneva Convention human rights violation. He's stereotyping Maxwell. He's wildly disrespectful of the cultural elements that Ashia and Maxwell find important. And he is just generally acting like a massive, cynical rain cloud over this entire relationship.
It's so stressful to watch people refuse to give a relationship a chance. Okay, so that is the rundown of the absolute chaos, the K-1 visa violations, and the emotional warfare we witnessed this week.
Yeah, a lot.
So now we've laid out the evidence. It is time to categorize the wreckage. Let's run these couples through our own personal snark-side tribunal and figure out exactly what kind of disaster we are looking at.
Time to judge.
Are we looking at genuine love, a cultural misunderstanding, a communication disaster, or a giant red flag wearing a romantic outfit?
Exactly. We're going to look at each major couple and definitively categorize their dynamic. Let's start with the absolute messiest, Catie and Josh.
I know exactly where you're going to put them, but I want to try and argue, just for a second, that Josh's loyalty is incredibly romantic.
Oh, please.
He is standing by her through all of her OCD struggles, all of her figuring herself out, and all of her messy bachelorette behavior. He is choosing to stay.
I am absolutely overruling you, babes. Catie and Josh are a giant red flag wearing a romantic outfit. There is no debate to be had here.
Okay. Yeah.
Catie's vocal desire for an open marriage 3 weeks before the wedding, her admitted inability to be monogamous, and her chaotic lifestyle where she gets blackout drunk to cope with stress is a massive, blinding warning sign that you can see from space.
From space, yes.
Josh wearing a nice button-down shirt and acting patient doesn't make it a romantic comedy. It makes it a Greek tragedy waiting to happen. The flag is neon red. Moving on. Marissa and Edward.
I'm going to categorize Marissa and Edward as a communication disaster. Because I truly do think they just constantly talk past each other.
Interesting.
Edward is saying, I want affection, I want a straight answer about your ex, and I want to feel valued. And Marissa's guilt makes her hear, I want to cling to you forever and trap you. If they could just communicate their actual needs without the HR or corporate jargon, they might actually survive this 90-day window.
It is a communication disaster, yes, but mostly because Marissa is intentionally communicating in a way that ensures he fails.
Fair point.
She is treating Edward like an unwanted souvenir she bought on a fun trip to the DR, and now that it's sitting on her mantle in New York, she realizes it clashes with her minimalist decor. She employs Darvo and gaslights him when he tries to communicate clearly. It's a disaster, but the disaster is entirely her calculated creation.
Yeah, you're right.
What about Mallorie and Rasit?
This one is so layered and complicated. I'm going to call this a cultural misunderstanding wrapped in a red flag.
I actually agree with this hybrid categorization. The cultural expectation in Turkey for a newlywed couple to immediately have children and expand the family lineage is incredibly strong. It is the social fabric. We heard his brother explicitly tie the act of having a baby directly to the concept of love.
We did.
So the clash between that intense patriarchal expectation and Mallory's deep, paralyzing childhood trauma is a profound cultural and emotional misunderstanding. They are operating from two different realities.
Right. But the red flag wrapping comes from Rashid's behavior around that misunderstanding.
Exactly. The red flag is the financial demands. The red flag is him wanting her money sent to his family's tent while he contributes nothing, him stubbornly refusing to sign a prenup to protect her assets, and him delivering a cold, calculated ultimatum at a wedding venue.
Also sketchy.
It makes the entire relationship look highly suspicious and transactional, regardless of the cultural differences regarding children.
Yep.
Okay, finally, Paula and Thomas.
I am calling this a pure, unadulterated communication disaster. It's just logistics. It's arguing over the square footage of an apartment and the biological application of a stick of deodorant.
Literally.
It is so absurd that it shouldn't be the thing that ends a relationship. If they could just communicate effectively, they could book an Airbnb for her family and buy a hypoallergenic, unscented bar of soap.
I agree, it's a communication disaster, but it's fueled by intense, unyielding stubbornness on both sides. They would both rather be right than be happy.
So true. Okay, let's pivot to a hypothetical scenario that I think would solve 90% of the problems on this show. If we were running relationship customs at JFK Airport, and we legally required these cast members to answer brutally honest questions before letting them enter the country and ruin each other's lives, what would they say?
I love this game.
Let's pretend each cast member has to answer under oath. Let's start with Marissa. She steps up to the booth, slides her passport under the glass. What is her brutally honest answer to the question, why are you really here?
If Marissa was injected with truth serum in customs booth, she would look at the agent dead in the eye, adjust her blazer, and say, I wanted a cute Dominican fling with benefits to boost my ego, but the reality of a full-time dependent fiancé is entirely ruining my independent Boston CEO aesthetic, and I am desperately trying to figure out how to fire him without looking like the bad guy on television.
Spot on. That is exactly what is happening in her brain. Okay, next up is Rasit. He steps up to the booth, complaining about the air conditioning. The customs agent asks, what are you avoiding telling your partner? If I'm answering for him, he would look down at his shoes and mumble, that I want your American money to send back to my family's tent, far more than I want to do the emotional labor of addressing or supporting your childhood trauma.
Oof. Brutal, dark, but incredibly true. Let's do Catie. She stumbles up to the customs booth, probably hungover from the limo ride, carrying a half-empty bottle of tequila. The agent asks what truth is about to explode next episode.
Oh, this is going to be good.
I'll answer for her. She'd giggle, twirl her hair, look at the camera, and say that I am entirely, fundamentally incapable of monogamy. I probably already kissed someone at my funeral bachelorette party, and Josh is eventually going to snap and realize his saint-like patience was just him being a doormat.
Oh, the accuracy hurts. But honestly, if they had to answer those questions truthfully, half of these seasons wouldn't even exist. The visas would be denied immediately. Which leads us perfectly into the fact that customs is about the lies you tell the government, but the real damage happens in the lies these couples tell each other. Or rather, what gets completely lost in translation.
The translation is always terrible.
We are going to break down the episode's most confusing conversations. We need to look at what was actually said out loud, what the other person heard through their own filter, what they probably meant deep down, and how the conversation could have gone differently if either person had taken one deep breath. Let's focus first on Marissa and Edward's fight in New York.
The infamous 45-day disaster. Okay, let's look at the transcript. What was actually said out loud? Marissa sat Edward down on the couch and said, using her best HR voice, that she needs him to develop his own life and be independent in the U.S.
But because Edward is isolated and unable to legally work, what he heard was, "You are clinging to me, you're annoying, you're a massive financial and emotional burden, and I am actively looking for an excuse to dump you before this 90 days is up."
And honestly, what she probably meant, if we decode the corporate distancing, was, I feel completely suffocated because I'm used to being single, I'm used to living alone, and I am used to casually texting my ex-boyfriend without consequence. Your constant physical presence in my house is holding me accountable to a mature relationship I am entirely not ready for.
Exactly. And the fix for this is so incredibly simple if she just had an ounce of self-awareness. If Marissa had just taken one deep breath, put down the corporate jargon, and said, "Edward, I care about you, but I'm overwhelmed by the sudden loss of my personal space in my own home. Let's carve out some me time for both of us so I can recharge," they wouldn't be in this mess.
So simple.
She just needed to ask for space kindly, rather than demanding he magically manufacture an independent life overnight when he legally can't even drive a car.
It requires vulnerability, which she absolutely refuses to show. She'd rather be mean than vulnerable. Let's do Mallorie and Rashid's disastrous talk at the wedding venue. What was actually said out loud. Rashid looked at her and said, "If you don't want a baby, I will cut this relationship."
And what Mallorie heard in that deeply triggering moment was, "My severe childhood trauma doesn't matter to you at all. My psychological pain is irrelevant. I am just an incubator for your dreams and a bank account for your family."
Which is an awful thing to internalize. But what he probably meant, filtered heavily through his cultural lens and the pressure from his brother, was, in my culture, family is everything. It is the entire core of our existence and our legacy. And without building a family, I do not know how to justify being isolated here in rural Alabama, far away from everything and everyone I know.
The fix there is so much harder, because it's a fundamental difference in worldview. But if Rashid had taken a deep breath and said, "I am grieving the picture of the family I thought we would have, but your well-being matters to me more than a hypothetical child. Let's go to counseling and figure out what our future looks like," it would have changed the entire dynamic.
That really built trust.
Instead, he threw down a transactional ultimatum.
Because he lacks the emotional vocabulary to do anything else. He only knows ultimatums. And that lack of vocabulary across the board with all these couples is going to dictate what happens next. So factoring in all these broken translations, red flags, and K-1 visa violations, who is actually surviving the final 30 days? Let's give our predictions. Who do you think is actually improving?
I am going to predict, shockingly, that Shay and Annabelle are improving.
Yeah.
Yes, the shower scene was entirely too much information for my eyeballs. And yes, Allison is a literal nightmare of a stepdaughter who needs therapy.
Massive therapy.
But the small moments, the Zumba dancing in the living room, making the green smoothies together in the kitchen, it shows they're actually bonding on a daily, mundane level. They have physical chemistry and genuine affection, even amidst the chaos of his terrible parenting.
I'll accept that. They have a foundation, even if the house is on fire. As for relationships headed for severe turbulence, I am predicting Paula and Thomas.
Oh, without a doubt.
10 people in an 800-square-foot apartment is guaranteed reality TV gold, but it is an absolute disaster for a relationship. I can see it now. Somebody's uncle is going to spray an aerosol deodorant in the tiny bathroom. Thomas is going to have a massive MCS, histamine flare-up. Paula's going to yell at him for ruining the vibe. And a relative is going to end up sleeping in the bathtub. The turbulence will be off the charts.
It's going to be so messy, the air quality alone will end the engagement. What about the next shocking secret to be revealed? I predict that Catie's going to finally admit she already kissed someone else during that funeral bachelorette party.
Oh, absolutely.
The way she was talking about it, the way she was practically begging for the open marriage conversation to happen. I think she already slipped up, the alcohol removed her inhibitions, and now she needs to pave the way for a confession so she doesn't look like a cheater on TV.
That is highly probable.
Yeah.
She is setting the stage. Now, for the return flight. Who is booking a ticket out of here? I confidently predict that Edward is one argument away from booking a one-way flight back to the DR.
Honestly, good for him.
He has way too much self-respect to keep sleeping on a cramped couch while Marissa texts her boss, CEO X, and tells him he isn't intellectually stimulating enough. He's going to hit his absolute limit, realize the K-1 visa isn't worth his dignity, pack his bags, and leave her alone with her performative lists and her empty house.
I genuinely hope he does, for his own sake. He deserves someone who wants him there. Okay, give me your completely ridiculous prediction that somehow, given the chaos of this cast, feels entirely possible.
My ridiculous prediction. I predict that Rasit, desperate to stay in America and fund his artisanal birdhouse empire, will try to get his K-1 visa legally transferred to one of Mallory's friends who actually wants kids.
Oh my gosh.
He'll just slide into a bridesmaid's DMs and say, "You want baby, I make birdhouses, let's go to courthouse." It's absurd, it's legally dubious, but with this cast, nothing is
Oh
impossible.
my gosh, I can vividly see him doing that. Just pivoting to whoever will sign the affidavit of support without demanding a prenup.
Mhm.
It's brilliant, terrifying, and so deeply snarky. Babes, this breakdown was an absolute roller coaster of emotions and questionable decisions, and wrapping up all this chaos just makes me want to turn it over to you, our listeners. Snark Squad, we need to hear from you. Get in the comments, tweet us, DM us. I want to know exactly which couple are you rooting for, what's the biggest red flag you spotted tonight, and honestly, look deep into your heart. Could you realistically move to another country for love? Let us know.
We truly thank you for hanging out with us, surviving the drama, and enduring the secondhand embarrassment of these K-1 visa disasters.
Yes, thank you so much. And don't forget, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with another reality TV-loving babe who needs to feel better about their own life choices.
And I will leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder while you check your dating apps. If love is truly blind, why does it always seem to find its way to a joint bank account and a cramped 800-square-foot apartment?
Keep your passport ready, trust your instincts, and we'll see you on the snark side.